So once again, I welcome you all to this very special 108th session of Leadership Talks. As you all know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Lalaji Solutions. India International Education Council is a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. It has collaborators from 12 countries. It aims to create a better world through education. It also aims to build quality centers for elementary education, which are approachable for all kids, finding best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those in Indian institutions. It is also trying to create more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities, publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also impart training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. So as you know that so far we have conducted 107 sessions. We have received 10,987 registrations from different educators. We have also received 9,932 questions on national education policy. We have seen participation from 5 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Nepal. From India, we have seen participation from 21 states and 86 cities. We aim to organize 200 sessions. With these sessions, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers like today's speakers would be joining us to share their perspective on national education policy. So with this, I would request you all, please join me in welcoming our key speakers to this very special 108th session of Leadership. Our first speaker, Pratima Gupta ji. Pratima ma'am is Assistant Director with the Sunbeam Group of Education Institutions, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. She believes that education is just is an eternal. The ultimate aim of every education endeavor is to stimulate minds towards conquering newer dimensions of knowledge. In her 2 decades of association with the Sunbeam Group, she has made pioneering contribution to revolutionize the education scenario in areas of pedagogy, curriculum development, arts and aesthetics, and integration of development psychology in classroom delivery. By incorporating every major educational development taking place across the world. After completing her BA in English Literature from Devi Ahilya University, Indore, she pursued her MSW in Psychology Social Work from Indore School of Social Work, and then MPhil in PSW from Lemans, Bangalore. She then did a postgraduate diploma in psychological counseling from Annamalai University. She is a certified internal auditor for inspection of ISO 9001 and 2000 system by NQAQSR. She is also a certified quality circle trainer by Jenny Mosley Foundation, United Kingdom, and Teachers Training Foundation, Bangalore. For her impeccable contribution towards empowerment and education for all, she has been conferred with various prestigious awards, the latest and the most prestigious being Iconic Women Creating Honorable Award. That was awarded by Women Economic Forum in March 2020 in Egypt. We welcome you, Pratima ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, Ved Kumar Mishra sir. Ved sir is principal with Delhi Public School, Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh. He has offered 22 years of achievement in developing productive student-focused environments to maximize learning outcomes. He's a dynamic leader and resourceful administrator with sound academics. He has built his temperamental structure and bound by the virtue of interpersonal skills, having good command over communication skills. He's also the British Council School Ambassador for North India from 2015. He's also been appointed the city coordinator for JEE Mains, UGC NET examination, CTET, evidence of verification, and state coordinator for CBSE Udan for last 2 years. He has received many prestigious awards for his contribution to the field of education, like Atal Shiksha Ratan Samman, FIFA Under-17 World Cup India Promoter Certificate. He also received letter of appreciation from MHRD in 2015. He also received a letter of appreciation from SOF, one award from Shrijan Welfare Society. He's also received Best Principal Award. We welcome you, Ved sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, sir. Our next key speaker, another very senior education leader, Monica Arora ji. Monica ma'am is principal with the Him Jyoti School, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. A very senior administrator, English teacher, and a progressive educationist. Strong leadership and mentoring qualities with an experience of more than 17 years. A diligent and seducilous worker who believes in nurturing young minds not only academically but also morally and ethically. Always researching and looking out for new and effective teaching methodologies. A very effective teacher, trainer, and mentor with exceptional public relations and communication. She has worked as online English faculty for Pearson and taught English to students up to college grade from USA, Canada, and South Korea. She has received many prestigious awards, like a Smart Family Award by Intel and Hindustan Times. Another one, a special commendation letter from CBSE for securing excellent board result. She has also received a special recognition award, Asha Ki Kiran, from the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Shri Trivendra Singh Rawat, for exceptional work in social service sector. She has also received Inspirational Principal of the Year 2019 from the Ambassador of Argentina in New Delhi. She was recently appointed Deputy City Coordinator and a resource person by Center of Excellence CBSE. We welcome you, Monica ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am. Our next key speaker, A.K. Sharma ji. A.K. Sharma sir is currently principal with the Lady LRD Public School, Mandi Gobindpur, Punjab. He did his primary, secondary. A.K. Sharma sir did his primary and secondary education in Mussoorie and completed his university education, BSc and MA in English from HNB Gadwal University, Dehradun. He started his career in education as a TGT Mathematics in Dehradun in 1998. And in 2009, he got an opportunity to work as a principal at a reputed school of Roorkee. In 2013, he took over as a principal of a CBSE co-ed school in Dehradun, which offered all the three streams at +2 levels. We welcome you, A.K. Sharma sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, I believe you are logged in two different devices. So, our next speaker, CL Khalid sir. Khalid sir is principal with the Sunbeam. I'm sorry, this is wrong school name is written here. He's the principal with the Sunbeam School of Mughal Sarai, Uttar Pradesh. He is a school principal with an 34 years, accomplished in implementation of blended learning, leading the team with exemplary planning and mentorship. He introduced a multi-oriented learn from home platform for teachers and students through daily webinars on education, career, and health. When this problem of lockdown happened, he was awarded Excellence Award for Best Principal by Vigyan Bharati Kanpur in September 2019. He was conferred with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Best Principal. He was also nominated for CBSE Principal President's Award in 2017. He has also received Best School Excellence Award for Sunbeam School Mughal Sarai from the Brain magazine. He has worked he's worked as a principal with Ambuja Vidyapeeth, OP Jindal School, Chhattisgarh, and a principal at Adams Model School, Barasat, West Bengal. We welcome you, Khalid. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Our next speaker is University of Kannada. He is mentoring biotechnology students. There, he is an alumnus from University of Delhi in microbiology and biomedical sciences. After completing her PhD from IIM Tech CSIR, she has over 5 years of teaching of undergraduate and postgraduate students in the reputed colleges of University of Delhi and Jamia Millia Islamia University. Dr. Neha is passionate about sharing her expertise in genetics, molecular biology, and microbiology with biotechnology students. Besides teaching, she has published research articles in international journals of repute like Nature Chemical Biology and has authored articles for in magazines published for CSIR program on youth for leadership in science. We welcome you, Neha ji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next speaker, Jaswindra Singh ji, is founder and CEO of Wordsworth PhD. He is an experience of 30 years in the field of education and technology, and has also served as a consultant to UNESCO on education. Wordsworth English Lab is designed for India and is a highly research initiative of ACT UNIP Group. It's a trusted education company with 2 decades of service in technology, education, and training. He's in technology, multimedia, and content development. Has been instrumental in presenting a world-class language lab solution for academia in India. In a short span of time, Wordsworth English Language Lab has managed considerable recognition across country for its unique content and methodology. Over 3,000 installations in institutions across the country stand testimony of the quality product, implementation, training, and a continuing service provided by ACT UNIP and its committed network of dealers. We welcome you, Jaswindra sir. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. And our last key speaker for this very special session, Soumya Srivastava ji. Soumya is manager with Fatado School of Music. Fatado School of Music, India's largest music educator. It is a brand which is synonym to music in our country. It has a 150-year-old rich legacy. It has been working with 200 plus leading schools of India. It has trained over 1 lakh students. It owns many renowned titles like Bandit, which is India's largest school-level music competition to promote music talents across all schools. Other titles are piano concert, cadence workshops, high jump training, FSM exams, incentive recital, FSM recital. It enjoys partnerships with renowned institutions like Berklee College of Music and NMIM School of Performing Arts. So we welcome you all. Welcome, Soumya. Thank you for joining. I again welcome all the key speakers. And with this, I would request all our speakers if we can have your quick 1-minute opening remark before I come back to you for your main talk. I would request Pratima ma'am, if we may begin with you. If I may request you for your quick 1-minute opening remark, Pratima ma'am.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon and Jai Hind to all the esteemed panelists and to all our viewers also. With the national education policy being the topic for discussion across the length and breadth of the educational sectors and the nation at large, I know we are going to be deliberating upon the various aspects that take precedence in each one of our thought processes. Frankly, for me, what is very, very important and what needs a lot of attention is how ready is the teacher? We're talking about changes in assessment patterns, so on and so forth. We're talking about a radical transformation of the entire educational sector. But to me, the vessel through which all this change is going to be incorporated and an entire nation perhaps is going to look forward to generations of new age learners and therefore better global citizens. This vessel is your teacher. And how ready is the teacher vis-a-vis the national education policy is going to be the thrust of my deliberations. And I look forward to inputs from all the esteemed panelists as well as the viewers who are watching us today. So let's have a really stimulating discussion. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. And we all are very excited to hear your ideas and perspective on this. Now, with this, I would request Ved sir, sir, if we can have your quick 1-minute opening remark.
Good afternoon to all the panelists and viewers. And I would love to add in Pratima ma'am's statement, as she has already said that we need to make sure that teachers are ready, because I do remember a few years back, we had a policy of CCE and how it became very, very like dangerous for us to continue with that. So we removed and we done away with this. So now, as if this is the policy, that was entirely assessment procedure. So we have to adopt, we have to make it sure that our teachers are ready to act as per the requirement of this policy. And we as leaders, since ma'am is having the principals under her, so I would add as a principal in the principals fraternity that we actually have to train lots of our teachers. Not only we need to train them, but we need to make them understand that now this is not the choice. This has to be taken up to the fullest of our own abilities. So with this note, I would only one thing say before I conclude this statement, that everything is possible. Only we have to accept the changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ved sir, for that. And absolutely, the education and teachers training is going to be a very important key. We'll come back to you, sir, for your main talk. Now, with this, I would request Monica ma'am. Monica ma'am, if we can have your opening remark.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and Jai Hind to all. As already two eminent people have already told that the major task would be training the teachers. Yes, definitely that's going to be one of the major tasks. But the second, I think the most important one, according to me also, is the implementation of the new curriculum and the pedagogical structure, which again is going to pose a challenge for almost all the schools, as we have, for generations and generations, we have been embedded into a kind of a system, and now suddenly, bringing about all the changes and changing the mindset of all the stakeholders would be a major challenge. So I'd love to speak on that, and of course invite views of all the eminent people out here today and the speakers also. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica ma'am. And this is, absolutely going to be a challenge with the new pedagogical change in the structure, and we'll only come back to you for the solution. So thank you. Now I would request AK Sharma sir, sir, if we can have your opening remark.
A very good afternoon to one and all present over here. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very good afternoon to one and all present. Like we have just heard from Pratima and Monica, I do agree with that the teachers need to be ready. That is very true. And as far as when I was going through the basic fundamentals, like that has been mentioned over there with the new education policy, somewhere I really feel that when I got to learn that still that we are looking for that the fundamental principles of this national education policy is to accord the highest priority to achieving foundational literacy and numeracy by all students of grade 3 by 2025. Then I really feel that we need to look at all the stakeholders to get faster results, and that is there where I feel, along with the teachers, we need to look at the other factors as well. And I feel that it is there the parents' role that has to be brought into the scene. So that's what I feel, that into my working, that is what I observed, that as far as when the teaching or the implementation of this policy is concerned, we need to make it clear to the parents as well that what we are bringing into the scene, we need to make it clear for that. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. So we'll come back to main talk. Now, with this, I would request CK Palit sir, sir, if you can have your opening remark.
Yes. Good afternoon and Jai Hind, everyone. When we look into the NEP 2020, so if we go back 30 years back when we had the NPE, so after 30 years, we are with the new education policy. And Pratima ma'am has very rightly explained that what is the need for the new education policy. Now in the education policy, as Ved sir very rightly pointed out, that CCE, which was adopted in the previous education policy, and we couldn't continue with that one for a long period of time. So I believe that the present scenario, we are not looking for 30 years of education policy. We might be looking for a 50 to 60 years for it to continue in a proper way. Now, when we're talking of the teacher is the key role who is going to play for the proper implementation of the NPE, I think we have to understand that the shift is there from a teacher-centric education to a student-centric approach of learning. So this emphasis has to be taken properly by all the stakeholders. And I'm happy that today I'm here to deliberate on these topics. And I'm also happy that all the educationists, those who are present here today, they have a very rich and varied experience in education. And we all together will be sharing our experiences here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Palif sir. We are equally honored with your presence. I was just counting the number of years of experience we collectively have. So we are, so we have more than 150 years of collective experience.
Great, great.
So today, so
That's a great
certainly
thing.
we're going to find a way out. So thank you, Palif sir. I'll be coming back to you. Now I would request Dr. Kasturia, Neha Kasturia ji, if we can have your opening remark.
A
Neha,
very good afternoon. Yeah, am I audible?
you're audible, ma'am.
Yeah, very good afternoon to one and all the speakers and viewers. Today I will be addressing the teaching pedagogy which teachers in universities and colleges can adopt so that we are in sync with the national education policy. So that will be the focus of my talk. And I look forward to hearing the opinions of all the speakers as well as the viewers here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Neha ji. We'll be coming back to you. Now, I would request Jaswinder ji, Jaswinder sir, if we can have your opening remark.
Yeah, thank you, Raju ji, and good afternoon, everybody. We are definitely talking about a very disruptive policy, and a lot needs to be done. But the area that I'm going to focus on is going to be on two folds. One is language. Okay, they have said that in the foundation years it should be mother tongue, and I strongly cite that part, and I'm with that part. And we're talking about what kind of language is what needs to be worked on, and the second is how can we achieve the best of the results, because this is it's a policy which is huge, a lot of changes. How can we bring in technology to make all this happen? Because to do such a lot of things, in even if we have 10 years, we will need to have use of technology. So I'm going to talk about how can we do that and how will it help us achieve the desired results. So that's what my point is going to be on.
Thank you, sir. We'll come back to you for your main talk. Now, I would request Soumya Srivastava. Soumya, if you can have your opening remark.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me here. A very good afternoon to all the esteemed panelists. So I'm going to be primarily talking about the vocational courses in the NEP 2020, because we at USEC believe that it's a giant step towards the holistic development of a child, and inclusion of vocational courses into the mainstream education system is not just going to encourage the children, but it's also going to improve their creativity. It's going to help them gain new experiences, be more versatile in life. So that's what I am going to be focusing on, and I'm looking forward to hearing all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya. We'll be coming back to you. So with this, we come to the next part of the session, the main talk part. I'll be inviting all the key speakers, for the main talk. So time would be 8 to 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is the maximum limit. I would request all the speakers to keep that, while sharing your thoughts, so that we have sufficient time in the end for the questions. Right. So I invite our first key speaker, Pratima ma'am. Just would like to share the learnings which we have had during our last 107 sessions. During our sessions, almost every participant maintained that this is a wonderful document. But a lot of people said that teachers training would be a challenge. As some of you also mentioned, a lot of leaders shared that finance is going to be a challenge. Many participants said that the lack of infrastructure, the uneven infrastructure distribution is going to be a challenge. Many people believe that good schools of urban areas are already implementing these ideas, but the biggest challenge would be for the rural school or the budget schools or the government schools. Many people believe this pandemic has exposed the lack of digital infrastructure we have countrywide. So I would request all the speakers that while sharing your perspective, if you can also suggest some kind of a roadmap or some idea which we all can try to execute in our respective domain. So that would make this session more, I would say, engaging and impactful. So now with this, I would request our first key speaker, Pratima ma'am. Pratima ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, to begin my inputs about the NEP and the teacher in the context of the NEP, I'd just like all of us to look at a few statistics here. So in the year 2016, we had 1.5 million educational institutions in India alone, out of which 840,000 schools are recognized. Cut to 2020, we have teachers. If I look at the number of teachers as given to me by the very helpful Google search engine, it is 94 lakhs 16,895 teachers in India in the year 2020. Now, do you understand the disparity of attitude and the spectrum of change that we are talking about? You cannot afford to have standardization of academic delivery systems and about teaching modalities across 94 lakhs 16,895 teachers. And if we are talking about the national education policy, then I quote, the new education policy must help reinstate teachers at all levels as, double quotes I would say, the most respected and essential members of our community. This is what the vision of the NEP envisages as far as the teachers are concerned. And the NEP must help recruit the very best and brightest to enter the teaching profession at all levels. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are extremely utopian / ambitious kind of wordings. Teachers as the most respected and essential members of our community. Really, are teachers the most respected and essential members of our community? And do the best and the brightest enter the teaching profession at all levels? Is the job of a teacher in a lot of lives of the teachers, is it actually taken up by conscious design and meticulous planning, or does a teacher accidentally happen to the profession of teaching? And when we are talking about these 94 lakh 16,895 teachers, I would want the panelists and the viewers at large to think, to ponder, and to tell me how many of these teachers came into the profession with the pure joy of teaching, and how many of them consider themselves to be the light at the end of the tunnel who are going to transform lives. So the task of the national education policy is first and foremost to bridge the gap of attitudes. And we have confronted this during the pandemic, wherein we had to really make the teachers understand and appreciate the fact that the learners that they are disseminating education to are at times far ahead of them and far more conversant with technology, with gadget use, with devices than they themselves are. And on various occasions, we were able to understand, appreciate, and also become apprehensive that are my teachers really the kind of teachers who will be able to tackle the new age learning? And in this new age learning, we not only have a learner who's growing up in a different environment, far removed from the kind of environment in which the teacher did her own learning and her own education, but is definitely more adaptive to the changing technology and the use of technology. So I think in the light of the national education policy, teacher readiness is of prime importance. Now, I may sound a little strong here, but the kind of bachelors of education degrees and the kind of education programs we've had for our teachers, I see Jaswinder ji already smiling. He knows what is coming. And yes, we are on the same page there. You know, the BA programs that we have had have in no way helped us to understand the psyche of the learners, have in no way helped us to understand the need of what kind of learners do we set out into the world. If we as educators have to honestly ask ourselves, and we of course want our teachers to enroll into these programs, we all of us at times when we appoint teachers who haven't done their degrees in bachelors of education, we tell them, please enroll for these courses, please upgrade their knowledge. But we have understood that these courses have in no way helped us to understand either the learning modalities, the disparities, or what is the need of our own learners in order to become effective, employable people in their later life. Our courses, our BA programs have not taught us that. So the National Education Policy comes up with a 4 years integrated BEd program. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to mature only in a few long years. By that time, I mean, by the time you change the course content of the teacher training programs as such, the degrees as such, your learners will be at least 6 years, 7 years, 8 years into the NEP and its implementation. And who are going to be implementing the NEP right now are the very same people that we have with us. So can you understand the enormity of the task that we as educators, that we as owners, as directors, as principals have to take up? We have to understand that these miracles of developing 21st century skills are not going to metamorphose by themselves. They have to be consciously directed, and they have to be directed by teachers who are in possession of that particular content, who are extremely not just aware but informed about the kind of employment currents that are circulating in the market scenario now. And if we are not going to produce that kind of learners, well, we are going to be facing exactly the same kind of problems that we are facing now. I mean, it is quite funny that after 76 years of independence, we as a nation have to sit and infuse our education system with critical thinking, with value-based questions. Seriously, we've had an education policy for the past so many years, but if we are still struggling to inculcate that into our teaching learning systems, understand what is going to be the problems that we face with yet another new thing happening. Mr. Pandit talked about the movement of the thrust of the NEP from the teacher-centric mode of teaching learning to the student-centric. Do you understand what it takes to make learning student-centric in a classroom? It takes a big heart. And it takes a huge attitude where the teacher consciously steps back from the role of the conventional guru and becomes a mentor and becomes a co-learner. That is when learning happens to take the stream of student-centric. Otherwise, it is just the same as it has been all the years before. We had Soumya telling us, talking about inclusion of vocational courses, and I am really, really interested in hearing what she says about it. But vocational courses such as music, such as carpentry, such as probably horticulture, and whatever be our gamut of ambition, is the traditional teacher trained to give it as importance as a subject? Does the traditional teacher allow the child to even leave the classes and go and prepare for a debate? Does the maths teacher or the science teacher value the intrinsic importance of a child pursuing something like a passionate co-curricular activity, which otherwise develops the person, in a holistic fashion? But is it really taken as a subject by the so-called subject messiahs? So when you are talking about infusing vocation as a part of the curriculum, you're talking about student-centric learning, but you have to first work very hard with your own set of teachers. And I say to all the educators who are here into the panel with me, and I say to the world at large, who is listening out there, what is very important is that your teachers have to be ready. They have to have the feeling of the need to constantly, consistently upgrade their existing knowledge base. And unless and until we infuse the need for continuous professional development, not because it is necessary for a better remuneration, but because without that, you are an ineffective and a contextually irrelevant educator in your own classrooms. You don't have to do it in order to get some kind of an increment, or you don't have to get it in order to get some kind of professional upgradation. That is a byproduct. You do it because you go armed with the latest knowledge, the latest technology. You go armed with the power of being on the same page as your child in the classroom. and you allow your student then to innovate, because you know what exactly the changing stuff, the change in the world around you is happening, and you're well versed with the changes. Therefore, you are the catalyst that directs the direction of this change, and you then allow the child to lead the change. Is our teacher really ready to leave his or her position from the front of the class and go and sit with the last child on the last bench and then allow classroom transaction to happen? If the new education policy envisages the change generation and a generation of Indians who are well on the way, who are equipped with the intrinsic principle of being Atmanirbhar, or who want to make our nation the superpower, well, you have to empower your teachers with knowledge, with skills, and most of all, with the mindset. The only thing new in the education policy will be the document, nothing else, if this does not happen. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratima ma'am, for these very strong, ideas from national education policy. You talked about that teachers, are the most respected component of our society, and NEP has recognized this formally, and it talks about empowering teachers in different ways, and that is the need of the hour. You also talked about the challenge, that it would be very difficult for teachers to tackle a 21st age, challenges, without, until unless we increase their capabilities and capacities. You also talked about the lackings. You highlighted the current in the current training programs, among the learning disparities and modalities, among other areas. You also called upon teachers that they need to become facilitator. But it's kind of a journey that seems to be pretty tough for most of the teachers. So thank you, Pratima ma'am. I'll come back to you with questions. Thank you for sharing these ideas. Now, I would request Ved Kumar Mishra sir, sir, if we can have your ideas, your thoughts.
Thank you so much. First of all, I endorse and even I keep in bracket whatever ma'am has said and continuing to the next one. Basically, what happens, I'm just looking into the practical applications, that most of the times what happens, we used to confine ourselves, our teachers, in the boundary wall of our schools. What happens, because I have a very, very rich experience of CC, and that is why I'm quoting this particular thing. In my opinion, demand is very, very important to uplift any kind of system. When you have a demand, you'll definitely practice to have supply also good. I believe in economics that is always taught. What happens sometimes, we are training our teachers meticulously. We are giving 100% to our teachers. We are making them acquainted with the current scenario and syllabus, curriculum, etc. But when it goes to the public, then demand is something different. There is a huge gap between school students, what we are working inside the campus, and when they go outside the world and they face the challenges, there is a big gap. So in my opinion, we have to find to reduce this gap, which when a parent come into the school, we teach all subjects, but ultimately he or she, means parents, I'm talking mother or father, they basically concentrate how to have my child's admission either in IIMs or in medicals or in the best college and universities of the country. So where we find there is a gap is that when NCF is there at one side and university education goes in the different direction. What I suggest, and even I believe that in this, that is the policy which has come in NEP, since education at university level also, education at college level also, education afterward also, there is something which I believe that interlinking is going to be there. What interlinking is required in today's time, that maybe a child who is studying biology in class 10 is continuing for his or her studies to become a doctor? Are we able to adjust the subjects at the higher level in such a way that the subjects which we integrate in our teaching and learning process is actually applicable in his or her entrance in the next higher class? This is what I believe. When we talk in terms of early child education, we have limitations. We have all kind of we can explore all possible facts. When we come into the higher education, that is now converted into secondary education instead of secondary and higher secondary, we are somewhere looking into the applications where child is taught in such a way that he or she is going to be a successful person through, of course, university education or good college education or good universities, IITs kind of. In NCF 2007, if you look into NCF 2007, I'm not talking about NEP because NEP is coming after 34 years. NCF 2007, we were having this since last 13 years, we are having NCF 2007. But most of the schools, if we enter, hardly we find as NCF is understood by each one of us. I'm not quoting somebody else, but NCF is not understood by most of even existing faculty members. When suppose NCF 2021 is coming in February and or March, afterward, we will be framing our curriculum as per NCF 2021, which will be the major, you can say that formation of academic implications in our school level. I'm not talking about NEP in terms of one. NCF 2021 will make a difference when it will come as in the part of document. Another thing, what happens, as ma'am was saying, that we have to be actually very, very particular in appointing our faculty members, training them. But what is happening nowadays, a B.Ed candidate has to qualify CTET examination. Why CTET examination is required when person has a trained degree? It is just because we believe that whatever has happened in B.Ed training is not sufficient. Maybe it is sufficient, but not taken up by the faculty members the way it is required. So there is a big gap when it comes to the requirement, because who are teachers? Teachers are those who are taught at university level. Teachers are taught who are taught at seniors college level. They are coming back to the school level, and again we are making a channel to have this NEP process or NCF process. But where we lack is again the requirement. We need to, in my opinion, we have to make integral training process for the parents, where we need to have this training process in such a way that parents should demand as per NEP, then we will be able to give the supply the way we want to give it to them. Otherwise, again, if gap is creating, for example, we will be having flexibility in giving the options of selection the subjects at the senior secondary or secondary level. But when parent is coming and not accepting your selection or combinations, then you will have a challenge. The challenges which you will face or we will face at school level is that they will be coming with the documents that these are applications which we have to be. And ultimately, we at school level, you cannot go with one subjects, 20 classes. We have to go with the subjects combinations, which should reflect the demand and supply as well. What I mean to say is, we have to have parents training, not only at school level, but formation of their requirements as well. For example, if a child is going in class 9, should know that I'm taking a subject for my this future, because universities are going to give every year one certificate now, as MPhil degree is now gone. Now there is a 4 years degree. Every year in the graduation level, candidates are going to receive some other kinds of certificates. So in that way, their career is safe. For example, if child does or candidate does 1 year of graduation, they will be coming with 1 year of certificates. 2 years of graduation, they will be coming with the 2 years of certificates. 3 years graduation, they will be coming with the degree. Similarly, in that way, they are moving ahead. What comes at school level is the biggest challenge, gap between the demand in the society and the basic informations which we give to the children to become successful in their lives. In school, of course, we have variety of options. we are having overall development of child, we are having personality of child, only we are considering a full human being. Child should become perfect, complete human being. He or she should possess all kinds of requirements. But is that requirement which we are catering at school level going to make child's career and future success? That is to be discussed before we implement the policy. Otherwise, what sometimes happen that we in school level become one entity, parents become other entity, universities are going in the third direction. And one more thing, we at schools, the kind of schools today we are talking, maybe every school is doing wonderful, even we adopted all policies, but you won't believe most of us are already following all kinds of basic requirements of this NEP 2020. We are already at school levels, we are doing. We are not going to change, as it is rightly said by one of the panelists. It is just another document is coming for us. But do you believe that this kind of thing is going to be taken up by entire country? If you travel in a train, you'll find that there are different kinds of passengers sitting in the same train and reaching at same time, but they are having different kinds of coaches. It is just because availability of their resources. So what I believe is to make it more uniform curriculum, where NCF is in pipeline, it is done almost. NCF will come in our hands soon. This is going to make a difference that what kind of policies we are going to implement, number one. Number two, is there gap going to be reduced between school and university level, or demand from the parent side? If it is there, of course, we might be catering the best education in school, because this is going to open horizon for our students having lots of opportunities in their lives. And I believe as a principal also that we are successful in our lives not because we were taught subject nicely. We were made, we were given formal education in such a way that we are able to make our life at a position where we can fight the challenges. Though lots of things as in the policy is already given, I'm not talking in terms of its literature, but I would suggest that we all have to make sure that both the sides, like I'll give one example before I conclude, that I keep on giving this example very often, that river has two banks, and water flows if both the banks are given proper strength. And if any of the banks not complete or not given proper strength, probably water will not flow in a right direction. It will, of course, scattered here and there, and flood will come out. So this is where I believe at one side, society is there, one bank, parent, society, or any other person who is outside the school. Other side, we school people are there. Both the banks have to make it sure that the river, means our children, should flow in a right direction. With this note, I believe we will work together and make this policy a successful one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ved sir, for these important points. You talked about why execution is a key. You also talked about that parents' participation, as a catalyst in change is very important. We need to take parents along. And you also talked about where NEP is also rightly giving its emphasis on teachers training and recruitment. In fact, a few of the participants during previous sessions also talked about it, that before they join, as Pratima ma'am said, that before they join the formal school, they must be trained about things. So you also talked about why students need to be taught about the future with particular subjects. They need to connect with the future with particular subject, and that's very important and very unique. You also talked about why we need more and very strong connection and communication between the three islands. So far they are working as three islands: the schools, parents, and higher education institutions. So we need to connect them. We need to have a more and more communication between these three islands. So thank you, Abed sir, for highlighting these areas, these points. We'll come back to you with questions. Thank you. And now I would request Monica ma'am, Monica ji, if we can have your ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. After hearing both the panelists, I am so glad that we all share the same page, because as Pratima ma'am said, the biggest challenge is going to be changing the mindset. It's not changing a document. It's not changing, something on paper here, and we get another circular and we pass it on. It's not that. It's changing an entire mindset of people who have been embedded into one kind of a mindset for generations and generations. So that's absolutely, I agree with her completely. That's going to be a big, big challenge, especially where it comes to the education being more child-centric and pro-children activity. So as we see overseas, the best education systems follow where a child, when it enters the school in the kindergarten, the education percentage is 20-80, which is 20% by the child and 80% by the teacher. And when they leave high school, it becomes again 20-80, but now it is 80% of the child and 20% by the teacher. So that kind of shift that comes in the education, we don't normally see in the Indian schools and Indian, framework of education. But this is exactly how the mindset should be changed. Now, another area which I wanted to highlight was the curriculum and pedagogy and how it is going to be challenging for us. If you'll allow me, can I share my screen for a minute?
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm not showing a presentation. I know we've all had a fill of presentations this year. So it's just a slide that I wanted to show. Okay. All right, I think it's not allowing me to show this. I don't know why.
Ma'am, you click on present now and then click
Yeah,
on
I'm
a
clicking on
window.
present now, yes, and a
Click
window
on a
actually
window.
I'm trying to open.
So when you click on that, you will see all the open. Is your presentation already open or that slide?
Yeah, it is open, but it's not really showing actually. So that's why.
So ma'am, you may have to scroll down if you have too many of those windows open.
No, it's not really actually
So
showing.
you are not selecting your screen, ma'am. After clicking.
No,
on
no,
that
I'm
present
selecting,
now,
I'm selecting. I've been doing this, but I don't know, somehow it is not really coming up. Just a second. No, it's perfectly fine. I don't think it was just a slide, basically, just to show that, all the kind of the complications that are enlisted and that may occur in terms of our pedagogy. So the pedagogical structure, simply speaking, would be 5 + 3 + 3 + 4, which we already know, right? So according to me, the biggest challenge is going to come in that 5, the first 5, because if you see right now, the first 3 years that now have become a part of the NEP, which are the the basic years of education, the fundamental years when we are going to introduce numeracy and literacy also, they were not really structured till now in India. So you had schools that sometimes started with kindergarten, then you had schools that sometimes started with playgroup, and then you had schools sometimes that start with grade 1 straight away without really, and these admission to these classes is not really structured in any of the schools. We are not, no school, there is no similar kind of a structure that is being followed for admission to these classes, and every school is doing their own thing. Now with NEP coming in, it is mandatory to have those 5 years of a structured learning, and that is where implementation of NEP, I think, would be a challenge for most of the schools. You have to follow the age limit here where it comes, because till now, again, we had play schools that gave admission to students who were only 2 years old also, which was exact. I mean, according to me as an educationist, that's disastrous. So now NEP is putting an end to all this. So the early childhood years and early childhood care and education, that is where all the problems are going to come in, I believe. Also, till now, we have seen a kind of an education system, especially in the early childhood care and education, where these, we have actually seen teachers making, drawings for the children where they need to color, or you have seen them making A, B, C, or something like that, where the children are just supposed to, even now it is being followed in majority of the schools. So where a child is just supposed to copy that A 10 times and B 10 times and C. So that is exactly where the challenge is going to come in, because NEP definitely wants to give away with this kind of system of education where a child would be taught in such a way. So I am very interested in the early childhood care and education, and I was trying to track the curriculum framework for these early classes. So what I have seen till now is an absolute transformation. Now that transformation, again, it will be on the ground root level, but implementation by the teachers, how many of our teachers would actually be trained to teach a child in this new format, which the NCF is now proposing. So that's one challenge I believe that is going to occur. The second challenge, I think, in the curriculum, if we call, then is the implementation of the vocational education. So we are talking about integrating vocational and the core subjects, the main subjects. So that integration, how is it actually going to occur? Pratima ma'am had already highlighted the point that how many of our teachers are actually trained, how many of your maths and science teachers would actually happily be sitting over a carpentry class, or maybe a music class, or even an artificial intelligence class, So how many of our teachers actually would be trained to follow up on vocational education? The NEP states that we have to take help here of the local artisans and the local community. So for the implementation of vocational education. Now I would like to ask, we've got so many principals out here. Do we actually know? I mean, do I actually know at least 3 good vocational artists around me? I don't think so. I'm not very sure. If it is talking about I'm talking about, say, pottery. Okay. To be honest, we have a pottery house in our school. It took me 2 years to find a really good person to teach that to the children. So suddenly that coming up in your 6th, 7th, 8th, and the kind of vocational subjects you think you would be taking up, will we have trained artisans also for that? So that hunt for the artisans definitely is going to be a challenge for all the schools. And after 8th, the vocational subjects will be more streamlined. We will be having levels of vocational education that the child would be completing by the time a child would be passing out of class 12. So I think 9th and 10th, they have level 1 and 2, and then 11 and 12 is level 3 and 4. So by the time the NEP proposes that by the time a child is passing out of grade 12, he or she would be equipped with level 4 of vocational education. So now that level 4 of vocational education, will that allow a child to actually follow a vocation? That is, again, one thing which is still a question mark, So we don't know whether it is actually going to bring up a whole scenario of vocations in India or not. Then second thing is the integration of health and hygiene with the main subjects. This is also a part of NEP, which is very, very important. So how many of us have actually till now been teaching mental health in school? So if we talk about health and hygiene, normally we talk about the physical, we teach as a curricular or co-curricular activity. We do take up, hygiene as a topic when we are doing some kind of projects or workshops. But what about the mental health? Are we actually teaching our children mental health? So these are some challenges, according to me, which are going to be there in the forthcoming years, and a whole lot of work has to be done in terms of the curriculum framework. The NCF definitely has a big challenge on their hands to do this, and a bigger challenge on all the stakeholders to implement the NCF, that is the curriculum that is actually going to be implemented. So thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to a healthy discussion and maybe find out ways of, combating these challenges. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Monica ma'am, for sharing these valuable inputs. You talked about the how implementation of a new curriculum and the many challenges with it. We also talked about that NEP has strongly addressed early childcare education. In fact, I believe one achievement which NEP has already done, that is that it has created that mass awareness about the importance of those early years. Now, because we have been visiting schools for last 14, 15 years, but I see that it's kind of a general discussion among people now, that people have recognized the importance of those early years. The brain development happens. This is a very common phrase nowadays. The 85% brain development happens those early 6 years. You also talked about the importance of integration and challenges of vocational education with formal schooling. You rightly said that it's easier when you write it, but when you practically try to find the those vocational experts, it is going to be a challenge for schools. You also talked about other challenges which NEP highlights: the hygiene, mental health, emotional health, and NCF. So thank you, Monica ma'am. We'll be coming back to you for the questions. Now, with this, I would request AK Sharma sir. Sir, if we can have your ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Well, after hearing all the three speakers, well, I will say that I agree with each and every point that has been mentioned. I would just like to begin with the CC that was mentioned by one of the speakers. When we are coming up with this national education policy, we have seen what happened with CC. Even after almost after the decade, it was implemented, started something around in 2007. And by 2018, it was on its knees. It was a very difficult task for, in fact, all the people, including faculty members and most of the people involved, to understand exactly what was required. So ultimately what happened, when you plan up something, it's something else. But when you implement it on the ground, it becomes something else. So you have to be very, very careful when we come to this policy. When we go through the draft, it is something really wonderful. When we break up that system that, okay, we are changing from 10+2 to this 5+3 plus 3 plus 4, it's okay. But to a layman, it doesn't mean anything. What exactly it means? And I would like to say that even at this stage, I have talked to many teachers. Even there are some teachers, those who don't understand what exactly it means, how the difference will be coming up. Like they say, okay, Anganwadi education or that plus basic first 3 years of education will be taken up now. But this has been something taken up right from the very beginning for a couple of decades now in some of the schools. Of course, not in the remote areas, but like metros or even big great cities, these things have been over there. Now, teacher training is very much important. Like one of the speakers mentioned that are teachers ready for it? That is most important. Do they understand what is required? When parents approached me, especially after this, it was released, this policy was released, they said how the education will change in the coming year, meaning 2020 and how it will be different. So most of the people there are at a loss to explain it to a layman, what exactly it means or what exactly. So what I feel is that like we have a number of debates on different topics on television and on different social media, I mean, these things should come up more openly and in a more elaborate manner for the people those are involved in it. We need to understand it, what we are looking for. Like another example that was given, like when we are combination of subjects that we are giving to, offering to a student, are the parents accepting it? Is it acceptable in society? Or is it possible for the school to offer that kind of a combination? As far as my experience is concerned, even given by the previous policies and all, there was a craze of studying science like anything. Even the students, those who are not performing well or those who didn't have an aptitude for it, they just wanted to go for it. They never realized, or they were never made to realize by the teachers or by their parents or by the peers that what exactly their strong point is, where they can do well. So either the teacher is not understanding it, that's why they cannot explain it. So again, the thing comes up that whether they are ready, they have got sort of training, that sort of training or not. Like even when I did my BA, it was almost mentioned in almost all of the books that you do something that is interesting for the students, not what exactly it is. Nobody mentions that. Now, how the assessment has to be improved. Assessment has been mentioned as one of the major tools. Like assessment has to be improved. It has to be made aptitude based now. It should not be mark based. Now, how do we frame those questions? Are the teachers trained for that? No. So what exactly sort of preparation is required for it? What exactly, how will you design those questions? Even when it was mentioned that HOTS should be given, we should focus on higher order thinking skills. Most of the teachers, those who are involved or employed in the schools, they couldn't frame those questions. And I'm not talking about the few basic schools, those are in the metros and all. If you go to the beyond that, then if you come to the vocational education, that is being important. That is something as a very good idea. But like ma'am Monica ma'am just now said that I couldn't find a proper artist for it. Now again, a budget schools will find a problem with that. Can they afford it? Can they give it that kind of facility to the students? That is also a problem. And of course, getting a craftsman or proper craftsman for that is also a problem. Now, from where these things will be available, how these things can be managed, that is a question. Restructuring of curriculum is another topic that is a major challenge, like one of the speakers just said. Recently, one of the publisher's executive met me, and he was presenting a book of samples to me, and he just said, okay, these books are as per the new education policy. And I was a bit surprised to see that this gentleman is offering me something which I have not been able to understand, even after being in the trade for such a long time. And he's ready with it. New education policy material is ready with it. Anyway, hats off to that person and his intelligence and how they manage it. Like another issue, of course, I'm changing my topics, but I won't like to repeat that, something that has already been mentioned by the speakers. Then another feature is like in the wake of this pandemic, what we have seen is that our teachers were digitally ready to go for digital teaching. That technological blend that is what's required was that kind of acumen was there. No, I don't agree with it. Though teachers did manage to do the job, but it was a very, very tough job for most of the people. So again, we need that kind of infrastructure when we go that in the next coming years, we need to provide that kind of digital training to the teachers and that kind of infrastructure that can provide that structure to the remote areas of our country. So that is another challenge, how it will be handled up for the government. What we need to focus, like it is mentioned over there, that the completion of the course is something that will have to go off it. We need to focus on how the topic can be understood or by the student. A particular understanding has to be stressed upon. We look forward to how much the student has understood. That is what we want. When we focus it on marks-based, not aptitude-based, then again we lose the track. So it's something very wonderful. And even in the introduction of the languages is given over there. Okay, after the age of 5, you teach a student in class in his regional language. Then they're saying that one of the Indian languages should be taken up the middle stage. Then they're going for foreign language at the secondary stage. That is something very good. But again, how the resources will be handled by the particular schools, that depends and has to be seen. So I just hope that the whole policy gets some measure when assessment is concerned, like block time methodology is adopted. Like what is the progress after 2 years that must be checked. We need to ensure that, okay, this was the focus that in the first 2 years, this much of progress should have been made. So we need to ensure it that within first 2 years, this much of progress should have been made, and we have made it. And if we have not made it, then we cannot wait till 2040. Like we're saying that, okay, this policy has to be implemented by that time. Every 2 years, every 6 months, block time methodology has to be there. We need to check it whether we have achieved what we wanted to or not. Because we can't wait for another 5 years and then we say, okay, now we need to have something more to it, add on some more pages, some more definitions, some more programs, and then okay, on the basis that we can work or we can achieve. So we have to ensure anyhow that it should be successful and it has to be successful. So I just hope it lessens the burden of classroom teaching and examination for the students, and we get the results that we are looking for. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Adesh sir, for strongly highlighting the areas that needs urgent attention. Primarily talked about teachers training and the lack of capabilities and capacities. You talked about the teachers' willingness to get trained, will be a challenge. And you also talked about that NEP talks about 360-degree assessment or new age assessment, but again, the teachers' capabilities, to build that kind of environment would be a test. And you also, called upon the periodical assessments and reviews, regular review to the policy and its execution that would be needed to keep it on track. Right. So thank you, Adesh sir. I have just something like during our previous sessions, one of the educator also, highlighted these areas. So he also talked about that this is kind of a part of process. When you have those teachers who have come out of that, strong recruitment or, training kind of thing, they would understand, I believe, the value of training. Once someone has tasted the fruits of, I would say the merit, I'm sure they are going to value that part. So training would get only valued if it's part of that process. So you're absolutely right when you say that this is a current big challenge and we need to find solutions for it. So thank you, Adesh sir. We'll come back to you with questions. Now I would request. Thank you, sir. Now I would request CK Palit sir. Palit sir, over to you. You are on mute, sir.
Thank you so much. When in the line, when previous speakers have already presented their views on NEP, it becomes easy for me in some way that most of the points have been taken up, and it becomes difficult for me that I should not be repetitive. I will go by Pratima Gupta ma'am's statement. It is very important that we don't want to see that NEP 2020 remains only a document. It has to be seen that how we implement it and how we see that it is actually helping the students or the learners. Ved Misra sir mentioned about that most of the things which is mentioned in the NEP is like that almost all the schools are doing it. Fine, fantastic. That is what we also understand. Now then, the question remains to all of us here, then what is new in the NEP? What the NEP is something different from the previous education policy. And that is where I believe that all the educators, those who are present over here, we may deliberate on those points. And we have to fine tune those areas so that it becomes more effective and implementable. Now, if we go with the NEP, one tagline is that learn how to learn. Learn how to learn. That is for the students, that a student has the flexibility now how to learn it. Now, when we're talking of how to learn, the important thing is that are we giving the opportunity and flexibility to the child to decide that what subjects he or she is interested and how much time he or she is interested to spend on that one. Probably in many of our schools, we are adopting this type of style of learning for the students. But when you are looking into NEP, it is something like all over the country, all the schools will be covered in for this policy. Now, when you are talking of learn how to learn, so a child requires time to understand the topic, research on the topic, understand the basic concepts of the topic, and then progress. So if NEP fulfills this part of this one, I think it will be a great thing for the country. Now, for this one, when we are talking of learn how to learn, so again, the important thing is that for a teacher is that learn how to teach. Now, teachers, at many of the time, we have seen that they have to follow the syllabus, examination, and all these things, and they are so much tied up that they don't get enough time to do something different with the student. So I am interested to see in the new national curriculum framework how much space it is being provided to the teacher and the student that they can do different type of experiments in their education. So if this is where the NCF is taking it forward, that yes, the curriculum which we are going to give it to the students, to the school, to the teachers, that will give a lot of open space for the students and the teachers to do a lot of explorations. I think it will be a wonderful thing. Now, another thing which we look into this one, this NEP is giving more emphasis on the digital learning. So when we are talking of digital learning, so we can, if we have read it, we have seen that they are introducing coding in the primary school level. So when coding is coming into the primary school level, or maybe in the middle school level, so it is a great effort to make the education policy as a worldwide. When we are talking of worldwide, so that means India will become digitally strong because of the mode of education it is delivered. During this online situation, we have seen that the digital way of learning has been the major or the mainstay for delivery of the education process. And today also we are following it. And many of the schools, we are ready to go for the blended way of learning. So these are the new things which we have to understand, that if it is being implemented properly, we will be able to follow it very progressively. But the challenges are there. The challenges, anything when we go for a new one or whenever we go for something different, it gives a lot of challenges to us. So these challenges has to be handled properly. I feel that the challenges will be better handled when the school is ready to understand what are the challenges they are going to face in the new education policy. So this type of platforms where the discussions are happening on the new education policy, if we discuss about the challenges and we look into that in my school, what are the opportunities I can give it to both for my teachers and the students. And because again, I will go by the opening lines when I was talking about the student-centric. So my purpose of mentioning the student-centric is that let us make the student free to learn as per their abilities and the interest. Here, when we look into one important thing is that the language. When you are talking about the language, we are talking about the bilingual mode of learning. I'm not talking of teaching, I'm talking of the learning. So are the books which we are looking forward, are the books are going to be in a bilingual way, or it is just in a document that we are talking of bilingual? So when we are talking of the bilingual way of learning for the child, are the schools ready to conduct the examination in a bilingual way? Because if the child is learning in a particular language, the child will be able to express those answers in that language where he has learned. So these are the things which needs to be seen when the policies are getting implemented across the schools, probably by next year, 2022. So before that, this type of discussions definitely helps the schools and the people, those who are with the framing of the curriculum, to understand that what will be the basic needs and the challenges. Now, when we look into this, I'm interested to listen to Ms. Somya about the vocational education which CA is going to address here right now. The vocational education, why it has not been very successful here in our country? Because if we go by again the policy document, it is 1% only that the children, those who are from 10th they are going to 11, they are opting for 1% of the students, they are opting for vocational education. But after that also, they are not able to continue with the same stream of vocational education, for which they have to switch over to again to the mainstream education. So these are the challenges. So these challenges has to be dealt with properly. And whenever we are looking into these challenges, as one of the speaker very rightly pointed out, it may be like that it is a specific to a particular location. As ma'am was mentioning that in her area, she may not be finding an expert in the vocational subjects which she wants to give it. It is true, it can happen. But we have to see that how we can do it. Maybe for that, I find a solution like that. If I arrange some online classes, online session with an expert who or she is from a different location, and she or he can help my students or the teachers over there. Another thing which the 10 days bagless education, when you are talking of 10 days bagless education, that is a very strong thing which the NEP is bringing into. So when the child is coming to the school for 10 days bagless, that means the child is going for an internship. Now the internship has to be in a vocational area. The child may move out of the school, can go to any of the locations where he or she spends good amount of time to learn about the trade. And the most important thing is that the appreciation of the trade. For me, it is the appreciation. They get that, yes, this is the time, this is the hard task when a carpenter is doing. So they always see the ready-made things or ready finished product in the market, but they don't know how much work has to be done. So the dignity of the labor will get stressed up here. So these are the new dimensions which maybe the education policy is trying to bring here. And we all have to look into that it doesn't remain a document. It is done very rightly and properly. Now, one more thing which we all are discussing here about the assessment. Because the important thing is that in our country, the mindset is that assessment is the examination where the child has to take a 3 hours paper, and based on the mark score, the rest of the things of the entire life is being decided. CCE was a attempt done to make a switchover from the regular mode of assessment, but we are very, very aware that why it couldn't succeed, or there were a lot of flaws in the CCE, and that is why ultimately it has to be dropped. But now I feel like that all our educationists, those who are in the mainstream and those who are making the policies, they know that they have to make an assessment such a foolproof that it doesn't goes to the dustbin type of culture, that it becomes a waste. So we have to reduce the waste. We have to reduce the wastage of time. We have to reduce the wastage of resources. So we have to build our country in that direction. So I'm very, very sure that NEPs, when 2020 will be made effective, we'll be following the things very properly. But this time we have got a lot of time to prepare ourselves for its proper implementation. Now, one more area when we are looking into the early childhood education, that 5 years, 85% of the learning is happening in the first 6 years. This is a statement which I believe that we have been hearing, and it is a fact to some extent. So those 6 years where the child is either with the school teacher, with the family, so how we are going to prepare the curriculum? If 85% of the learning has happened in the first 6 years, then 15% is the rest only for the next level of study.